The Munsters revealed. We visit the EAG trade show. An exclusive interview with Jack Guarnieri of Jersey Jack Pinball.
Hi, and welcome to this month's Pinball Magazine and Pinball New podcast. My name is Jonathan Houston.
And I'm Martin Ayeb.
And we're here to discuss with you the pinball industry news of January 2019.
And it's been a very busy month, hasn't it? With trade shows, new game launches, lots of code updates, lots of new stuff.
Yeah, lots of short news, I would say. So at the end of the show, that we might discuss a couple of companies in a really quick time. But yeah, I guess the biggest news of last month probably was Stern revealing the Munsters at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas.
Yes, not exactly a surprise that that game was going to be revealed there, or indeed that was going to be the title of it. But yeah, they had what do they have there? They had a Pro and a Premium. And do they have a limited edition?
Yes,
well, I can't remember.
All three models were present at the show, and I really have to compliment Stern on the is it the choreography that you call it?
Perfectly said.
Yeah, they really put it well together. This time, we've seen launches where everything was not very cohesive, and here we had Gary Stern in green grandpa makeup, Zach Sharp as the Wolfman kid, Eddie thing, and Jack Danger as what's the guy's name? Herman from the show, also in green makeup. Full live stream for 3 days. The website caught up, Facebook caught up immediately, so they had everything synced up that this would be a, like I said, well choreographed launch. So I've criticized Stern in the past for when launches weren't that choreographed, so it's only appropriate to compliment them when they actually, I think they got it right, and they did it very well, a very good job with it. So that's just me, but still.
Yes, it was certainly an impressive launch, and I think the game was well received. It was known about in advance, and there were certain comments suggesting that maybe it wouldn't be as exciting as the launch actually turned out to be. So I think that did work out well for everyone concerned. I think people generally were very receptive of the game. Was that your take on it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, from what I understood, the original 500 limited edition game sold out almost instantly. In fact, I understood that Stern announced that they are now making 600 limited edition games, so they added another 100, which was then received with not that great enthusiasm.
No, that's not a surprise, really. That's the whole point of limited editions, isn't it?
Yeah. Personally, if having played the premium game, which has the black and white artwork on the cabinet instead of the full color artwork on the cabinet with the limited edition, I would just go for the premium. If you're in the market for an LE, then forget the limited numbers and just go for the premium. But that's just me.
Okay, I will disagree with you there, because I wasn't as big a fan of the black and white artwork as I thought I was going to be. On the cabinet's nice. I don't like it on the playfield. And the reason I don't like on the playfield is because all the inserts are coloured, and they're coloured exactly the same as they are in the LE version. So rather than it being sort of like Centaur with a black and white playfield and red inserts, this has got black and white playfield and multicoloured inserts and some multicoloured decals and various other parts which are not black and white at all. It just doesn't really come together as a comprehensive and cohesive package, shall I say, which it could have been. If they made all the inserts clear or white and just done all the colouring with the LEDs, they could have done some nice stuff. But that one aspect of it makes me think that the LE is the better deal as far as the looks go. As far as value for money goes, then probably the premium is, if you don't mind the black and white aspect of it and the colour sections, the premium is not a bad way to go.
Yeah. So what do you think of the game? But we had a chance to play it at the EAG show.
Yeah, I liked it. We'll come to the EAG show in a minute, but I liked the game. I quite like the lower playfield. I know a lot of people say they don't, and I don't know what your take on that is. But
we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, I thought it was accessible. I had a bit of a problem with the lower playfield and the one I was playing because it didn't seem to register the shots very accurately. So you could shoot the ramp if you shot it too fast, or indeed the orbit if you shot those quickly. It wouldn't recognise that you'd made the shot. So that might just be a setup of that one game. I thought it was accessible, understandable as well, which is great. It certainly had a simpler rule set. The ones that we played, I think, were set up fairly easily in terms of certain numbers of things were completed at the start of the game, so you only had to, like if you had to spell out something, then the first three letters were already complete, which made getting to the Monster Madness mode somewhat easier than it would be, I think, in an arcade or in a home environment. Mm-hmm. But it certainly seemed fun, and it certainly had the novelty of the multi-ball on the lower playfield, and then in the Monster Madness at the very end, having to play the upper playfield and the lower playfield at the same time. And I thought that was quite challenging, and it made that particular aspect of it a lot harder on the premium than it was on the pro. So, but what's your take?
Well, I think they did a great job, but the only point of criticism, and that's a very personal thing, is it didn't wow me. It was, I mean, you have, especially with the premium that I played at the show, you have the extra mini playfield, but we've seen that on Family Guy already. Most of the shots in the games, many people already said, it's like a best of. Take a shot from this game, take a shot from that game, and then there's people saying, yeah, but you can't be all original because every shot has already been done and so on. And then again, I look at Dialed In and I think, no, it is possible, but given the restraints that there were with the either the license or the design, I mean, all the shots are proven shots. They're the elements of the game, they all seem to be fine, and yet there's nothing spectacular. If you get what I'm trying to say.
I do, yeah. It's a solid game, you're saying, but it's not giving you that wow factor. I would say that kick out lane on the upper left side is different. I haven't seen that on any other game. Certainly not in recent releases. You know, I can't remember what it's called now, but where it goes into there, and it's the Super Jackpot Award.
Yeah.
Which then kicks up to the top, which I thought was onto the orbit, which is actually quite a nice shot.
Right. So but I also I mentioned the mini playfield, and I'm making the reference to Family Guy. That's not completely fair.
No.
Obviously, they improved it quite a bit. The ramps in there, the up kicker, it's all optos now, instead with Family Guy just being switches, I think. It has a multi-ball, so they improved that quite a bit. But still, I was like, maybe it's because of the Munsters theme that I was sorting the rumor that there would be a lower playfield. I was probably expecting something in the line of Haunted House.
Yeah, full size ball and full size flippers.
Yes. And this felt a bit like, yeah, it's nice, there's nothing wrong with it, but we've seen it before, and it's not wowing me in this. And yet they improved it. I completely agree. Kudos to everybody on the team because they really did a great job. But maybe it's a theme. I'm not familiar with the show at all. And
no,
yet it's a fun game to play, but like I said, it didn't wow me. And I wish it did.
Yeah. Oh well, you can't have a home run every time. But it's a nice looking game, I have to say. It's very attractive in both the Pro and the Premium that we saw. I haven't seen the LE yet, but other than in pictures. But that looks pretty good as well. I think of the three, I'd probably, as I said, I'd go for the LE if you could, if money was not a factor.
If money's not a factor, I probably would go for a Premium. And usually I'm more of leaning towards a Pro, but in this case, the Pro, lacking the mini playfield, didn't do much for me. It's still it's a fun game to flip. I'd love to flip it on location or at shows or whatever, but it's not something that I'd be taking a detour for just to play it because it's somewhere and that's the only place to play it. Let's put it like that.
Okay, well, fair enough. So that was we were playing that game at the EAG International Show in London. You flew over for that along with Aljonka as well from the Netherlands, and there were quite a few people from the pinball world in the UK there as well. On the Stern had 5 machines set up on their distributor, their Electrocoin stand. Right,
Deadpool Pro, a Munsters Pro, Munsters Premium, and 2 Beatles Gold games.
Yes, absolutely right. And I have to say that the show in general seemed pretty quiet and didn't seem to have any problem in getting on to those games when we wanted to. No, they were generally in use, but you only had to wait a moment and you could get onto one of them, even if it wasn't the exact one that you wanted, which is in marked contrast to previous years. But I don't think that's a reflection on Electrocoin or Pinball or Stern. I think it's just the fact that the show was pretty quiet this year.
Right.
You've been there a few times in the past. What did you think?
Yeah, well, probably true. On the upside, there were more pinball machines than in the previous 10 years.
Yes, because I think we have to thank Pinball Heaven for having, 10 machines?
10 machines in their booth, yes.
Wow. You got a list of what they all are, because I would be going from memory, but they obviously had the 4.
From the top of my head,
Jersey Jack pinball machines.
That was 4 games, all 4: Wizard of Oz, Hobbit, Dialed In, and Pirates of the Caribbean. There was a home pin, Thunderbirds. Yeah. There was a Stern Munsters Pro, which was being streamed the first day. For the link, see my report on pinball-magazine.com website. There was a Beatles Gold. There was an Attack from Mars remake, a Monster Bash remake, and a Medieval Madness remake. And I think that's 10 already, yes.
Yeah, I think that's it, yes.
Yeah. So, and Jack Guarnieri of Jersey Jack Pinball and Ryan White of Chicago Gaming were both present at the booth as well.
They were indeed, which I guess probably segues nicely into the interview that you and I did with Jack.
Right.
Do you want to explain how that came about? What the setup for that was? What the impetus for doing that was?
I asked Jack, you want to do an interview for our podcast? He said, yeah, that's a good idea. Sure, why not?
Okay. Well, we got some precedent there because we did do one with him together back in France. When was that? May?
April of last year, I think.
Was it April? Okay, yes. At the Flip Expo show.
Right, and speaking of that, Jack has just been confirmed to be present at this year's Flip Expo show as well.
Oh, he's come back. Okay.
Yes.
Well, maybe. Are you going to that?
Yes, I am.
And me too.
So I can see a tradition being born here.
Yeah, we're getting the team back together again. Okay.
Right. So, but reason to do this interview was I had been talking to Jack, and he mentioned to me some news that could not be reported at the show yet. But by the time we would do our podcast, it was no problem to report it because. We still have the scoop, but it was no. But then now we are allowed to bring the news. Basically, that's the whole idea.
Yes, and without giving too much away, Jack also sort of very heavily hints at future titles which are coming up from the company this coming year. So there's a lot happening at Jersey Jack Pinball at the moment.
Right. So
shall we go over to Jack now, or do you want to do that a little bit later?
No, that's fine. Let's do it now. As a heads up, we recorded this at the show floor. We tried to find a quiet spot, which is rather difficult. So there's quite some noise from arcade equipment in the background. I tried to reduce the noise. I got some very special software to do that, which I think did a great job. But it's still a bit noisy, so pardon me for that, but still, I hope you enjoyed this interview. So we're here at EAG Expo 2019, and we're sitting here with Jack Guarnieri, founder of Jersey Jack Pinball. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, you're here represented, or the company is represented at the Pinball Heaven booth with all four games. We're just at the start of 2019. What do you expect for this year? And what can we expect?
Well, I'm looking forward to a really good year for pinball and for Jersey Jack Pinball in particular. It's exciting this year for us. We expect to release 2 brand new games. And one earlier in the year and one later in the year. And we're adding some distributors around the world. And there's a lot of excitement about that because they're things that we've been working on. And a lot of things take time. They just don't happen overnight.
So let me just jump in there because exciting news, 2 games this year. Are you planning to launch those at any particular shows or any events, or do you just launch them whenever you're ready to launch them?
I think we launch them when they're ready to be launched.
Right.
I'd love to have games on an assembly line, or really close to an assembly line, or games in boxes, or something. One of those 3 things when we show the next game, because people want their games. When you announce something, the excitement is really high. And people just want to get a hold of their games. So having people wait, it's a painful process. I think we're done with that.
Okay, because you've always said that you wanted to get games that people could buy there at the launch.
Right.
So you're getting ever closer to that. Obviously, Pirates took a bit longer than you were anticipating from launch, but you feel you're getting much closer to being able to supply games at launch time.
Yes. I mean, the pint I just bought you, Martin, it wouldn't have been good if we went up there and she took my money and she told you to come back in a week. It wouldn't have been so good. You wouldn't have been able to enjoy what you wanted to enjoy right away. So we're trying to shorten that time up. Look, there's going to be a wait anyway, because we're very blessed in a way when we do announce something. There are a lot of people that want to buy it. So not everybody's going to be first, but you have a lot shorter lead time if you're in production or very close to production than if you show a game and you go in production a year later. That's not fun for us. It's not fun for anybody.
Do you ever think you'll be at the point where you've actually got games, a large number of games pre-built at launch time, or do you think it's always going to leak out, so that'll never happen?
Well, I think it'll always leak out because vendors talk, contractors talk, people talk about what's going on. Our parts in many places sit next to other companies' parts, and people love to talk. It's part of the fun of everything is to get information and share that information, whether you like it or not. But it could be a day where we have games and we just announce it and, hey, come and get them. That would be great. I'd love that.
So, if you're talking about having games ready to ship when you announce them, ideally, don't you miss like the time that you need to test them thoroughly to make sure that like every mechanism on there is working properly? And
it's a good point, but if we test them internally and we test them in multiple locations internally, which means that New Jersey would have games and Illinois would have games and other people that work for the company in other places would have games to test. You could accomplish what you wanted to accomplish just as well under an environment where it's controlled. Maybe there won't be people kicking them or trying to break into them or things like that, but certainly you'd be able to test mechanisms and devices and electronics to a level where you have confidence to build the game.
Okay.
It's an interesting point you raised there just now about the Illinois office and the New Jersey office, or the factory in New Jersey.
Right.
Can you explain for those who aren't fully familiar with the factory and the business exactly what goes on in which office and how the New Jersey and the Illinois offices talk to each other and work collaboratively?
Yeah, so when we started the company, a lot of people in our industry live in the Chicagoland area, and we have contractors and people like JP, he's in Holland, and Butch is in New Mexico. We have other people in the West Coast and things like that. So one of my other favorite companies, Apple, they design in Cupertino and they build in China. I didn't think it was such a technological wall where people couldn't collaborate and share, especially with technology today, with all of how you could communicate, to have an office in one place and a factory in another. It has its challenges. I mean, people just can't walk over and see something. They have to, rely on each other or do FaceTime, things like that. But the office in Bensonville, Illinois, has engineers, artists, programmers, mechanical people, electronic people that basically design the games. But they design the games in concert with production in the factory in New Jersey. So it would be great if you design something, but if the factory can't build it easily, it's really not a good design. So, we have people constantly going back and forth. It's not really that far to go. Again, it's not Cupertino to China. It's an hour-and-a-half flight from New Jersey to Chicago, and it's not really a big deal. So both offices, all the people, their counterparts, they have a mutual respect for each other. When they design things, they accept each other's criticisms, they accept each other's suggestions, and they work as one team to make the best product they could possibly make the greatest game they can make.
So is it fair to say that all mechanical engineering takes place in New Jersey? Or is that also happening up in Illinois as well?
No, that's in Illinois, but we have people in New Jersey. Listen, Thomas Edison, I don't think he was an engineer. So you have a lot of brilliant people that don't need an engineering degree that know how things should be built because they have experience doing it. And those people are very much desired in the process. So if we have people in New Jersey that build things and people in Illinois that design things, sometimes in any kind of product, design and manufacturer don't agree. And you need to get them all to agree. And that's a process sometimes, especially when you're designing new things. If we were using over and over again things that were already proven, things that were off the shelf, things that were on other games, if you're just going to take everything and recycle it and toss it on the playfield, and see where it goes. The process gets a lot shorter and probably a lot less fun because things have been done before.
Okay. So you mentioned 2 new games this year. Can you say anything about the designers of those games?
There are 2 designers that work for the company.
Well, obviously we know that Pat Lawler is working for the company.
Yes.
Is there going to be a new Pat Lawler game this year?
Yes.
Is it going to be a game early in the year or later in the year?
Yes. No, his game will be earlier in the year.
Okay.
It's so easy to tease you, it's just, so much fun.
At least we know something.
Well, you know everything. Maybe you don't know everything, you know almost everything.
Okay.
But Pat has a preference for narrow body games. Is that something?
Standard size game?
Standard size, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, regular, rather than...
Well, I can
the wide
tell you
body.
that Pat's next game is
Standard size.
standard or a wide body, one of those.
Okay. It's a rectangular game. He hasn't built a rotation 9 or anything like that. Okay. That much we know.
Okay.
How
So,
much beer do you have today? Not much. Not enough.
Not enough,
yet.
I
Not
guess.
enough yet.
so is there a chance that Pat is releasing 2 games this year?
No.
So you also have Eric Meunier working
Yes.
at the company.
Yes.
Is he working on a new game?
Yes, he is.
Is that game scheduled for release later this year?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we have 2 names.
There you go.
So we got something.
See,
You-
see how easy that was?
Yeah.
You also mentioned expanding distribution.
Yes.
Obviously, you're in the US. You're probably covered quite well.
We've actually added another couple of distributors in the U.S. We added Amini's in the Midwest. They're a really great retailer. They have big stores, and they've been selling pinball for a while. They've been buying some of our pinball machines from other sources, but we met at IAPA, and it just made sense for them to be a direct distributor, and we stepped up and they made a nice size order, and it's exciting to have them on board. We welcome them.
Okay. So how about internationally? Any news you can reveal?
I'll go easier on you. So, I've been working on something for about a year in Japan with a really great partner, Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
So, when I think of Japan and the landscape, from what little I know, pinball was pretty big in Japan for a while, and it kind of went away. And I got an opportunity last month to visit Japan, and I think my head exploded about 40 different times, going to all of the amusement centers and seeing the equipment, these multi-level, beautiful. I don't even think I could call it an arcade, but between all the online gaming and the redemption gaming, the instant win gaming. And by gaming, I mean not the gambling side of things, but the amusement games. And, I got to go to a couple of test locations where Bandai Namco has been testing our games since last July. And Butch Peel came with me. We did a service seminar, and in a couple of weeks at Japan Expo, Bandai Namco will be representing Jersey Jack Pinball in their booth. All our games will be in their booth.
Excellent. And that's within Japan. That's not
That's within
international.
Japan. They have the rights for all of Asia.
Okay.
So we'll be expanding to other parts of Asia with them as our partner.
So that makes me wonder. Obviously, Jersey Jack games with Keith Johnson being your lead programmer, they're quite deep. But since Japan is a new market, are your games entry level enough so that people who are not familiar with pinball can easily get in and get it?
Well, there's going to be a learning curve. But you know what was kind of, I don't know if you guys saw on social media, you know, they, you know, you're on my Facebook page, both of you. I got to go to Osaka to the Silver Ball. And it was very humbling for me in a way because there were actually people that caught wind of the fact that I was going there. And I had quite the welcoming party. And it was a little, honestly, it was embarrassing, you know, because, you know, people came out to meet us, and there's a lot of passion for pinball there. We met the people that run the pinball maps for Japan. We met some of the tournament people, and they're all behind us to get pinball out in Japan in a big way. And they're going to be working with the people at Bandai Namco on the ground to get games out and to teach people how to play. You know, I think our games in a lot of ways, especially with games like Wizard of Oz, it brought young people to pinball because of the technology and because of the theme. And you know how I feel about Wizard of Oz, especially with women, girls, young people. And we were at a test location where there was people playing all of our games. And there was a gentleman playing The Hobbit at the time, and he turned around and he saw me, and it was just a surreal kind of moment where, you know, he was almost going to cry when he realized it was me. He started shaking and he wanted a picture and autograph, and again, it was very humbling, but they have a lot of passion for pinball there. So I think we'll be very successful. I think the market for us is it's just explosive. Very exciting. Very exciting.
Okay. With that potential, do you think that will impact on the kind of licenses and the titles that you'll pick in the future, without having an eye to what would sell well in Asia?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, it's funny you picked up on that. You're very perceptive, Martin. I discussed different licenses with the executives at Bandai Namco for future games, and they had some suggestions for us.
Is there any possibility you might make games just for that market?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
Possible.
If they come through with enough orders or pre-orders.
Possible. You know, it's possible you could have a game themed for one market and the same exact playfield themed for another market. Obviously, that's been done before in pinball.
Sure, I'm just thinking about what Homepin did in the Chinese market. Their second game is very much more focused on that market, although it has some resonance back in the West as well. So they obviously think that's a growth area. Yeah. You see it as a growth area as well.
Yeah. And again, we never say never. You don't know where some of these roads lead, but again, we try to blaze new trails and go where nobody's gone before, but at the same time, not reinventing the wheel, because that takes a lot of time and energy and money. And to have Bandai Namco get behind our product, it wasn't a 5-minute decision. You know, it took proving what the product is and proving that it can be successful, that it makes money and it works, and that they want to get behind it and put their efforts in it. And they're putting a lot of effort into it, and we're really proud of that.
Well, so that presumably means you'll need some extra effort, and I understand you've been taking on some more people recently as well, including some people we might be familiar with from previous work in pinball.
Yes.
Such as Duncan, I guess.
Yes. Duncan Brown has joined us. Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. How did that all come about?
You know, the opportunity was there. Larry was making a change in his life, and Duncan was making a change in his life, and the beneficiary was Larry, Duncan, and Jersey Jack.
So what is Duncan's role going to be in Jersey Jack?
Help make great games.
But in what capacity, in the sense that is he going to be a programmer, or is he going to be involved in a different way?
Exactly.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, Jack.
Well, you know, you already paved the road, so I just go down it. You know, it's real easy for me to be interviewed by you two guys.
And are there any other hirings taking place or in prospect?
There are, yes.
Okay, anyone we might have heard of, possibly?
Maybe. What do you know, Martin?
I don't know. I'm trying to find out what I know or what I don't know.
One of Duncan's contemporaries joined us as well. So,
Okay. Does he have a name?
He does, but I'll let him talk about it when he's ready.
Okay. Right.
So I might cut this out. So I leave a blank space to make it an easy cut.
Are we telling everybody you might cut it out?
Yeah.
Wow, that's like a real cliffhanger.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about your daughter?
What? No. All right, whatever you want to say, go ahead and say it.
So, how do you feel about
Yeah,
your...
really, there's a name for it, what you are, but I'm not going to use it.
So you want me to finish the question, or you know
I know
where?
the question before you're going to ask it.
I know.
You
Yeah.
do, I don't.
Yeah. So how do you feel about your daughter naming her brand new son? Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Interesting.
After your biggest competitor.
Well, so little Gary Salvatore was born the day after Christmas, and he's named after her father-in-law, Gary.
With double R.
2 R's, yeah, you're the wise guy. But, he's really cute, and Olivia really loves him a lot. She's always helping Jen and Gary with, getting his diapers and getting his cream and getting his little bib. He's already got a bib that says Pinball Wizard. And it's really great. So, I think that's really great. I'm happy about that.
Okay. Well, like I said, congratulations on becoming a grandfather for the second time.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Jen as well.
Yeah, and her husband Gary. Yeah.
So
It's a lot of fun.
So 2019 is going to be an exciting year for you.
Yeah, 19 is a great year already. It started nicely, and it's going along nicely. This is our first show of the year. I always look forward to this show. It's a little bit warmer weather here this year, so that's nice. I'm not freezing, and it's a good show. It's a good vibe. A lot of people here. A lot of great reaction to our games.
On that point, you obviously travel the world and go to lots of different events. What are the sort
As
of...
do you?
Indeed, yeah. What are your must-go-to shows, trade shows, pinball shows? Which are the ones which you enjoy most, and which are the ones which are the most profitable or most beneficial in terms of the business?
It's a funny answer, I'll tell you. I like all of them because you never know what opportunity turns up at these shows. Sometimes a show that you might anticipate would be great is just good. Sometimes a show where you don't expect much to happen, you meet people that they want to distribute your games, or they tried one game and now they're ready to step up and order a lot of games. So I think every opportunity has to be looked at the same, where it's the potential is really great. If you go in with a preconceived notion of, oh, this show's going to be this or this show's going to be that, you kind of get into this box of an attitude or a mood that you get into. And I'm just excited to do this. I love doing this. I think I could do this forever. I'd like to believe I could do it forever. And
You want to do this forever?
Yeah, I don't mind. Really, the travel part of it is fun. I'm a little spoiled. I get to go back tomorrow, and then next week I'll be on vacation, the Friday, so we'll be away. My wife and I will be on vacation, and then I'll be back. But, my vacation, am I answering my cell phone? Am I answering emails? Of course. I try to balance things out without being a complete idiot, being at dinner with my wife, answering the phone, or answering emails or texts. You got to try to put technology somewhere where it works out for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you ever wander around these shows and look at products that other companies are producing, or even things like say plush toys or any kind of novelty games, and think, that might be a good license to make a pinball with.
I look at everything, and I think you knew the answer to that before you asked that question.
Well, you also go to the licensing shows, is everything done there?
I look at everything because you need to be in touch with what your customers are doing, your young customers, potential customers. At the same time, you need to look at what your competitors are doing and be aware of what's going on. And again, not look at things through a lens of you know better or you know what'll work. You really, I don't know who said it. I'm sure it's been said by more than one person running the company. You need to just shut up and listen to your customers. And a lot of times that's some of the best advice, because for our company, the whole company was started by our customers. Customers became employees. Customers became investors. So I think the customer base is the thing that we have going for us that we can always really embrace and appreciate and listen to.
What are your customers telling you now?
They're telling us that they really love what we're doing. Don't do what other people are doing. Don't make certain things happen that other people are making happen, and they're responding by buying our product.
So, since we're at the start of 2019, the general expectation inside the pinball market is that 2019 is likely going to be a year that might see more new games released than, let's say, the past decade, possibly even 20 years. On the other hand, here at the show, I also hear distributors talking like, there's so many games out there and there are more and more games coming. We don't even get the chance to sell the game, and the new game is already there. How do you feel about that?
Well, the market is going to do what it's going to do is the simple answer to that, and the customers will buy. They'll pick and choose. Obviously, not every customer can buy every game coming out. So they're going to be more choosy about what they buy. I see some customers buying certain games, and they keep them a short time, and they turn them over to other people coming in the marketplace at a little bit of a discount. So maybe that's healthy, because it gives other people the opportunity to buy a game that's only a few months old with a few plays on it for a lower cost. One thing I say, I don't have all the answers, and I don't have an answer to that one. What companies decide to do and how many of what they decide to build, how soon, they have their own plan and their own agenda for what they're going to do. I think if you look at a lot of products, aside from pinball, exclusivity is something that consumers typically chase after. People, as human beings, a lot of times, people want what they can't get. And whether it's an elusive girl that you might be chasing in a younger life, or whether it's something that's very difficult to get because of limited availability or because of a higher cost to acquire it, there's collectors that want to acquire things and want to buy things that not everybody else has. So sometimes making more of something is not really the answer. I'll give you a quick story. When I was a kid, there was a gas station in New York called Hess, H-E-S-S. And they had these little toys. They were called Hess trucks. And you had to get on a line, a physical line, to buy them like the day after Thanksgiving. And they would sell out. And every year, people would almost have fights to get online, Thanksgiving afternoon, to get one of these Hess trucks. And they would wind up on eBay for a lot more money. If they were $19, maybe they'd be $39 or $49 at the time. Well, Hess, in later years, they kind of went out of the gasoline business, but they still kept the Hess truck business, and they made these available online, and in the last year or so of their gas stations, they were selling them all the time of the year. Nobody cared about it. You go now on eBay, the Hess trucks that were $49 are like $5. Nobody cared about it. So I know it might not apply to exactly what we're talking about, but just I know that our customer base waits for our product. They might buy other products while they're waiting for our product, but the loyalty is there. We never want to abuse that or take that for granted, which is why we want to shorten up the delivery time and the time it takes to make a game, to create a game. So, the market will decide what something's worth. And if it's worth buying it, keeping it, paying for it, and my reality is only my reality, but the customer's reality is real reality. That's what matters.
Okay. If I can expand a little bit on Jonathan's question and also on your answer there. Of the 4 games that you've produced so far, one is obviously the original title, and 3 are licenses. One of those is, you'd probably say, is a more contemporary license than the others, The Hobbit. That was more time-based. It had to come out around about the time the movies came out. But the Wizard of Oz, obviously, and Pirates of the Caribbean are more sort of classic movies, or classic licenses. Has the experience of working through those 3 licenses sort of pushed you in the direction more of classic titles rather than trying to bring out a game around about the same time a movie comes out, or a band's new album comes out, or a tour takes place, or is it all fair game and everything works as long as you time it well?
I think all works if the game is good. Really, if the movie is good and the game is bad, it's a bad game.
But if you brought The Hobbit out now, people are going, oh, hang on, that's like 5 years since the movie came out.
It's kind of funny that we released brand new Hobbit code today. So how many more Hobbit games will we sell because we released code today? So there's kind of part of the answer. I mean, the answer is 0, right? Because Hobbits are built and gone. We may go back and build Hobbits again. I don't know. I mean, there are people asking us to build Hobbits. If more enough, we do.
Right.
If more people ask for Hobbits, we might go back and build another few hundred. There's always been this thing that said, well, if you have games in a movie theater, when the movie came out, it would really be great. And I remember years ago when I did collections for Mondale, and they operated a lot of games in movie theaters, and I think they were owned by Coca-Cola at the time when Gottlieb was owned by Coca-Cola, and they were Columbia Pictures at the same time. And they had some games in movie theaters when the movie came out, and not one extra person went over to a pinball machine and put a quarter in it because the movie was there. I think that's a psychological kind of thing. Yeah, it makes sense that if The Wizard of Oz was going to be released on a certain date, you'd want to have that game around the same time. 6 months after the movie is in the movies, there's a DVD release. And then 6 months after that, there's another promotional release, and then it kind of tails off until somebody decides to make that movie 2, or that movie 3, or that movie 4, or that movie 5. I never think it's a bad time to sell a good game. And I really kind of stick to that thought process. It's difficult to hurry creativity. That's kind of a cop-out excuse, because designers and engineers and programmers making any kind of product in the universe will say, you can't rush greatness, or you can't rush creativity, or, that's just an excuse that I can't stay on a timeline or a budget. We're still a young company. I mean, the company's 8 years old. Never mind that I'm doing this 40 plus years. A lot of people want to make great games, and I think that's what we need to focus on. And will I take another license, Martin? for a movie that's in the works, that we don't know what the intellectual property is, that they won't release the main character, protagonist, or... no, I won't do that. That's kind of silly. I don't think I'll do that again. And we've been offered a couple of those. And the memory of The Hobbit still stings a little bit, because I was asked about this for Replay Magazine. We're going to be interviewed in Replay for February, and they got into asking me about The Hobbit. And Casey, who's a pinball guy, said, I know that you showed the game in 2014, and then you stopped and you backtracked and you put Smaug on there and you changed little graphics and everything. Was that a good thing to do? Painful as it was to talk about it, it was a good thing to do. Because I would have made a game that's less good than what we did make. Hobbit is an epic game, and a lot of people really love that game. And it's beautiful, it's stunning, it has a lot of amazing firsts on it, and I'm very proud of it. But it came at a difficult price, but you still had to do the right thing for the customer. That was what we were always doing. I always pictured myself as the customer, paying really good money, and we're trying to give them the best product.
Okay. So you mentioned 2 new games this year. That kind of makes me wonder, does it mean that production time per game is going to be less because there's another game waiting in line, or has the capacity increased that you can produce more games in a shorter time?
The capacity has increased, and we can produce more games in a shorter time. Both of these titles I expect to sell over 2,000 games each. I'd be really surprised if I sold less than 2,000 games of each of them.
Are we looking at 3 different models per game?
Yes.
Okay. In the meantime, well, we just discussed The Hobbit, but obviously your first game, The Wizard of Oz, has turned out to be a real classic in the sense of the movie, I would say. Are you still planning on continuing production of that game while in between runs or something like that?
Yeah, so here's a little nugget for you. We will build more Wizard of Oz games this year. We bought parts to build about 250 games this year. So we'll let everybody know when that'll happen. There's been a lot of interest from distributors all over the world. At this show, probably 10 people asked me about Wizard of Oz, when they could get more Wizard of Oz. Our supply chain of, let me say it different. Our distributors, what they have in the channel is not much. There's not much Jersey Jack product sitting on anybody's shelves. I can tell you that we have 0 Wizard of Oz games available. We have 0 Hobbit games available. We have 0 pirate games available. Basically, the whole production run is sold. We'll be building games for another couple of months. For people now ordering pirates, and some people order them today, they have to go on a wait list in case somebody somehow decides, extremely doubtful, that they don't want games that they order. We're stuffing containers right now that are going to Europe. We finished up the 200 CE games. I have about 22 dialed-in games in the building. It was about 80, like in November. So dialed-in typically, sells. I said the other day, I was talking to Jen. I said, "Well, I'm going to go to the show. I could sell. What could I sell? Here I am, like at the beginning of the company. What can I sell? I could sell the future. I could have announced the game like an idiot, which I won't do. So look, it's not a bad place to be. It's better than having 2,000 games in inventory,
right?
A warehouse full of games and millions of dollars tied up in games. So our customers are very willing and eager and able to buy our product, and
okay,
it's a good place to be.
So So there's 0 pirates in stock right now, and if people want one, they basically have to wait for someone else to back out. Does that mean that the production of pirates is limited in the sense that you can't produce more than you have produced right now? Or
Jonathan, what do I say? Everything's limited except aggravation. Okay? So if we ordered X amount of parts to build X amount of pirates, that's all we could build until we order more parts. So, would we go back and build pirates again at some point? Yeah, we might. I think it's a great game. A lot of people came up to me today that have them. They love it. But we can only build as many as we have parts for, right? So if the next game is coming down the track, it's time to switch gears and go into the next game at some point, the next several weeks, and get that game going.
Okay. Well, now you're announced.
So wait, I want to say one other thing. Distributors may have games, because I don't have games. I don't have pirate games. There might be some distributors that have games that are not sold or accounted for, but the entire run is sold. Everything's sold.
Is there any way that a potential buyer can find out who has got stock? They'll have to ring round every single distributor and say, have you got a Pirates? Have you got a Pirates?
Bingo. Bingo. I mean,
Is that something you can help them with?
We're able to sometimes. Sometimes distributors, I don't want to say this the wrong way, but sometimes distributors are not completely forthcoming with information to us. We know if we sold a certain distributor 100 pirate games and we sold distributor B 30 pirate games, there's more of a chance that the guy that ordered 100 might have some games than the guy that ordered 30. So that's the only direction that we could point customers. We love all the distributors equally, like you love your children, but certainly the world is not created equally. Some people order more and some people order less.
Well, you think it would be in the distributor's interest to tell you when they have games available, so if people inquire, where can I buy a Pirates game? You can point them at their local nearest distributor with stuff.
I think that's true if they got stuck with something. And I never hear that from any of them. I don't hear anybody ever calling me or Jen saying, I have, 5 of these XYZ games and I can't sell them. Can you help me sell them? I've never heard that.
Okay.
That I've never heard in 8 years.
That's not a problem.
No.
Okay. But going back to my original question, which was, with producing 2 games a year, does that change the dynamics of how the development teams work? Do you go? Have you ever kind of been like Williams were with their, describing it as gangs of developers, of game developers fighting against each other, or each developing their own game in isolation? Previously, when you're producing one game every 18 months or something like that, it was much more a collaborative effort, I'm guessing. Well, now you've got 2 games coming out this year, you kind of have to divide your resources a bit more. Is that correct?
It's correct, but there's some friendly competition. There's no street gang mentality. There's nobody battling with each other. There's no slamming doors. There's a lot of collaboration and cooperative work together. Eric, when Eric came into the company back in 2012, when he was still in college, when I hired him, his hero was Pat Lawler. He took games apart and brought in translates and aprons for Pat to sign them. So he had Pat up on a pedestal. I'm sure now that working with Pat every day, maybe Pat's only on a soapbox now. He might not be way up on the pedestal. He might be closer to being human to Eric than where he was before as a guy. There's a lot of mentoring, there's a lot of teaching and sharing that happens. United together, we're a lot stronger than we are individually. We may be great individually, but we're a lot greater working together. And that's been the DNA and that's been the mindset of the company really from day one. We're not trying to, the rumor of many years ago we had one designer make one game and one designer make another game. They would come to shows like this and they would tell buyers, well, don't buy his game because my game's coming out and it's a lot better. That doesn't happen. I'm sure everybody wants to do the best they can do. That's what I see.
Okay.
So we're still in January of 2019. One
I
of
thought this interview got me into February.
yeah.
I didn't know you were going to throw me on the grill here.
Well,
I thought
okay,
it was
so
a 5-minute conversation, for God's sake.
Okay, so where I want to
I
get
would have
it.
got Martin two pints. He's already done. You're already done. I had my little drink here, my soda.
Right. Okay. So
I don't even drink soda.
Let's round this up. But obviously,
It's okay.
there's the announcement of a Texas-based competitor who was originally planning to release about possibly even 5 games this year. Is it something that's concerning you, or is it like we just do our own thing and?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Jack.
And there you have it, Jack Guarnieri of Jersey Jack Pinball.
Yes, very, very revealing, and good luck to him and the company on their ventures out in Japan with Bandai Namco.
Right, and of course, well, planning on revealing 2 games this year, that could be very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a very busy time for everybody in both the factory and also in the development office up in Illinois.
Right. So now, I'm not sure whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I understood that Pirates is basically coming to an end production-wise by the end of March, and I got the feeling that was kind of a short production run.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
No, because I mean, obviously the game has been known to come out, but then it took quite a bit for them, almost a year, to get it actually into production, which was like October last year. So that's almost 6 months, and then move on to the next game. Obviously, at Stern they do that even much quicker, but still, for Jersey Jack, either that means that they really ramped up production and they are putting games out in a much quicker fashion than they used to, or the game is quite underrated at the moment, and that might be reflecting in sales.
Well, I guess if they want to produce 2 games this year, or release 2 games this year, then yeah, March time would be about the time, March or April would be about the time they want to launch the first of those. And Jack has said many times that he wants to get to the, as you heard in the interview, wants to get to the situation where he can announce a game and have the game ready for sale. So they will certainly just need to start producing their first 2019 title in March or April in order to fulfill the initial orders.
Right. So hopefully, but there's no guarantee, but hopefully we might see a new Jersey Jack game at the Texas Pinball Festival.
I'd be surprised, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Strange things happen in Texas.
Right. So, but if they are planning on starting production at the end of March, with the Texas Pinball Festival being the 22nd to the 24th, that's basically the last week of March, I'd say, or almost. Then again, it would also not be surprising if they didn't reveal at Texas and instead would reveal 3 weeks later at the Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yes, Texas seems to be quite full already with, shall we say, Munsters related appearances, and two of the special guests of the show are from that show. The Texas show are from the Munsters, I should say. So that's where the big promotion is. So I don't know if Jack or the rest of the team there would want to sort of be playing second fiddle to Stern and the Munsters. I'm sure they'd rather have their own promotion going on.
Right, well, they might still do that and even seal the show.
Well, that's possible, yeah. I mean, the Munsters have been out for a while now, so it won't exactly be new by that stage.
Right, so...
Okay, but talking of upcoming games, there's been a change for another manufacturer this past month, with American Pinball, who have made some artwork changes. What do we know about that?
Well, we discussed this earlier. There was already some new artwork produced after there were some comments on the image of a monkey grabbing two women on the back glass. And what they have done now is basically the main two characters. I forgot the name of the guy.
There's Otto.
Otto, that was it. I was thinking Oscar, but that wasn't it. So Otto and the female, I don't even know what her name is.
No, I don't know that either.
But they're basically now portrayed each on either the left or the right side of the display on the back glass in quite a large way. So they got rid of the monkey and anything else that might offend people, and that's supposed to be the new artwork for the game. So that's about the news about Oktoberfest that I can think of.
I prefer the new artwork. Not so much, well, the back glass as well, I think, but also the cabinet side art. Is greatly improved, because before it had a huge great head from Otto on the side, which actually covered over the name of the game. So you only saw Oktob from the name on the side, and the rest of it was covered up by his head. But now the entire game name is there, which looks better and more complete.
Right. Okay. That's sort of all the news from American Pinball I could find. Did you find anything else?
No, I think that's about it. They're obviously busy working away on getting that game ready for production. I don't think it's in production yet, is it? Or is it?
I'm not sure. Personally, I think they might still be busy getting moving their factory to that new plant and getting started over there. I'm not sure how quickly they plan to do that, but...
Well, they had planned to do it by the end of last year, and by the end of December, I should say,
right?
And be making games in the new factory by then. That seemed pretty ambitious to me, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a couple of weeks later. And with all the cold weather and everything they're having over at the moment, that's probably impacted on things as well.
Right. Okay. So moving on to let's say Spooky Pinball.
Yeah. Okay, so they've been, basically we said in the last podcast that this month they would be in full production with Alice Cooper's Nightmare Castle, and I believe that's now the case. And along with that, the seemingly endless stream of new code updates for TNA, Total Nuclear Annihilation.
Well, it's not that there are that many code updates for TNA, but I mean, the last one has been quite some time ago. But there has been a new code update for TNA, and I haven't installed it on my game yet, but I'm looking forward to do so.
Do you know what it adds to it?
I read it. I forgot about it.
Okay.
But sure. Scott always does a great job with his code updates, and he puts in some very clever stuff. Apparently, there's a new way to play the game, which has to do with, as you know, TNA is about destroying 9 reactors. Mm-hmm. That means by default, the factory setting is set to that you have to destroy 9 reactors, and then the game ends. Yeah. But some clever guys figured that since the number of reactors that you need to destroy is can be changed by the operator, you can also set it to, for example, 1. Which means that as soon as you destroy 1 reactor, then it's game over. But in a tournament setting, that actually turns out to be pretty fun, in the sense that everybody basically has to destroy 1 reactor, and then it's game over. But before you do that, you have to score the most points in order to make. So that's a new type of way that the game apparently is playable, and you might see it with such a setting at a show as a side game or something like that. That could be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you said, and as a side tournament, maybe that'll be a fairly quick one might think. But although it's one of those games that encourages you to not not complete the objective, or at least not until the very last minute, the point where you think you're about to drain.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So that's spooky news.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Scott is still working on Scott Denise's Haunted House Adventure, or whatever it's called. Although nobody believes that will actually be the name of the game, but still.
No.
So
yes. But just call it Scott's second game for now, then.
Yeah. Okay. Chicago Gaming came also out with a code update for Monster Bash Remake.
Yeah, interesting. What do we know? What the code update was? Because
I think it was
Monster Bash. So certainly bug fixes or display enhancements, maybe.
Probably that, or light show enhancements, that kind of stuff. Obviously, the main code is the main code. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it'll be for the enhancements they've added to it.
Right.
And but they've been having a few problems with playfields. Is that right?
Well, I understood there were some posts on pin sites about the quality control for the playfields for the limited edition games, which apparently they require a higher standard than for the well, it's not the pro model, but the standard games.
Yeah.
And they had some issues with that, and I'm personally not that deep into that kind of stuff. But basically, it indicates that they have a very high level of quality control, and they weren't these playfields weren't up to par, so they decided not to put them in games, and that caused some delays in the production of the limited edition games. But they're working on it, and I think it's a good sign that their quality control is at such a high level.
Yes, it's obviously in their interest and everybody else's interest to make sure they don't end up with a bunch of playfields which get damaged or easily worn when they go out, or indeed faulty from the start. So right. Yeah, they want to make sure that's it's leaving the factory in the best condition it can be. But slightly surprising, given that their history in making playfields, you think they'd had that kind of thing, nailed. Having done it for the past, God knows how many years. But then again, when we've been to the factory before, we have seen quite a lot of sort of second playfields from previous games, which were just stacked up there and for recycling. So yeah, clearly they it's not a foolproof process. And it's good they're paying extra attention to the limited edition models.
Right. Well, interestingly, Chicago Gaming owner Doug Duba even commented on Pinside, and he explained that even after all these years, the screen printing of the playfields is still the most difficult part in their business.
Yes. Well, the rest of it's computer controlled, and that's a very manual process, isn't it?
Right. So, and I have no idea whether you mentioned that there's currently the cold weather in Chicago, which is apparently quite extreme. I'm not sure whether that has anything to do with it, but it could be, because we're talking about wood, and that responds to temperatures as well. It's a large factory. If you can't get it, I'm purely speculating here, but if it's difficult to get it to warm the entire factory, that might affect the woodwork, and well, that might affect your screen printing as well. Yeah,
absolutely. They might have supply issues, with getting wood getting their wood delivered to them. If trucking companies are having problems, bringing the timber or the sheet wood, although that comes from. Actually, I don't know where it comes from. I was going to say
it's a top secret. They won't tell you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So what's also interesting?
That any further?
Right. Okay. So since we're on the topic of Chicago gaming, we were planning to do an interview with Ryan White, and for whatever reason, we decided not to record that at the EAG show where Ryan was present. Instead, we agreed to do a interview by Skype after the show, but we haven't gotten to that yet. So hopefully next month we'll have that, because Ryan did have some interesting Well, news to report on the production of Monster Bash, and obviously that's a game that had been delayed for 6 months as well, and there was some news on that, and I find it always interesting to hear, like, okay, why was this delayed, or what was going on, and what was the difficult thing, and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, it certainly gives you an insight into the manufacturing process of these games, which you don't necessarily get. You think everything just goes reasonably smoothly, but in fact there are an infinite number of things which can go wrong, and are liable to go wrong. But it'll be interesting to get to speak to Ryan and find out about this latest issue, and in fact, as you said, the whole process leading up to the release of Monster Bash and what they're working on now.
Right. So, moving on, Multimorphic announced a new game.
New, but we'd seen it before.
I was wondering about that because I think I played that before even.
I think it might have been at Texas last year.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about Grand Slam Rally, which is a sort of pitch and bat type game, which uses the upper playfield from Cannon Lagoon. But unusually for Multimorphic, or unusually, but it's the first time I think this is a game that isn't an in-house design, or the software, and even though the upper playfield is, the software isn't.
Right, because it's developed by Pixel 86, which is a third party, outside this party. They developed that, but I think that's a good thing to see multiple parties developing games for the P3 platform.
Well, absolutely. That's what Jerry's been extolling all along. The idea that once the platform's there, then it's up to other companies to go ahead and make games for it, and so he needs to get the user base, grown and at a size which makes commercial sense for other companies to do that. But this is, I guess, I wouldn't say purely software, because there's probably artwork as well available to go on the upper playfield and maybe even on the cabinet sides. I don't know. I haven't seen that yet, but it makes it sound like it's a reasonably simple process to come up with a new game using existing hardware, and that's something they're very keen to promote.
Right, and if I understood correctly, but let me check, because I think I still have the website open. Obviously, people not familiar with the P3 platform, with Multimorphic, basically, you buy a cabinet with a game in it. In this case, let's say Lexi Lightspeed, a game Escape from Earth. There's a certain price for the Lexi Lightspeed module at the top of the playfield. But then there's add-on games which cost a lot less, in the sense that they might use the same playfield, but you play a completely different game, which is the case, in this case, with Grand Slam Rally, which is rather economical, I'd say, if you want to expand your pinball machine with a different game. Then it's just a matter of a few $100s, and you have a different game in your machine without having the hassle of reeling in a complete new game and having to set that up and all that kind of stuff. So that's very interesting. I think I played this at Texas last year in whatever demo stage it was back then, and just like with the traditional pitch and bat games, this is like there's a ball coming at you, and you have one chance to flip, basically, and to make a hit and to knock it out of the park or wherever you want to knock it. So, but I think it's a nice and simple, easy way to basically expand on the platform that you already have. So I think this I'm not sure whether it will work for locations, because I don't see locations changing games over that often. But if you have kids growing up and they like baseball, then this is certainly a great extra that they can install easily on the game and have fun with it. And if you're done with that, then you just start playing another game. You can still play Cannonball Lagoon, or whatever it's called, and or you change the module and then you play a different game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the great advantages of having that platform is all the games are just software based if they're using the same upper playfield module. So you can just finish playing one game and switch over to another one and just reboot effectively.
Right,
and you're good to go.
Right, and I'm looking forward to seeing Jerry Stellenberg and his multimorphic team at the Texas Pinball Festival. They're from Austin in Texas, so it's I wouldn't call it a home
home show for them. Really,
yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's still a couple of hours drive, but still it's relatively close by. And they're always very nice to hang out with. Great people, obviously very talented, very skilled, and technical. Well, the technology inside the P3 game, it's truly amazing. If you look inside that game, you're like, wow. It's truly innovative, and I really hope that they will manage to come up with a killer game that will basically convince everybody, like, yes, this is a great platform, and I want to have one now, and expand on that onward.
Absolutely, and so that's looking forward to the Texas show, which we'll do some more of a bit later.
Right.
So that's. I saw that Multimorphic have also seem to have a lot of Cosmic Kart Racing upper playfield modules that have been produced and are available to buy now. So that's quite an amazing upper playfield module because it's got LED. Lights all along all the paths, and they do some amazing light shows with it. So certainly play that game if you get a chance to play it in either at the show or any other show, because it's definitely worthwhile, and it's a very different way of playing the game, and then they do some nice tricks on the ramps with locking balls on there as well. Yeah,
very innovative and very. Well, interesting. So if you have the chance, either come to the Texas Pinball Festival or any other show, and hopefully their games will be present. And I highly recommend you give them a try.
Okay, so that's Multimorphic. Let's move over to your sort of area of expertise then, with what's been happening regarding the legal actions between Dutch Pinball and their contract manufacturer ARA, which I believe has had some kind of developments in the past month.
Yes. Okay. So what happened was in December, Dutch Pinball had a court hearing together with ARA, where they both explained the situation from their point of view, and then it was up to the judge to make a ruling. And I've been talking to Barry a couple of times in between, but most of that was off the record. In the meantime, obviously, Jaap was also being treated for throat cancer, for which he's been cleared, thankfully now, after treatment. So that's good news on their end. In the meantime, their lawyer told Dutch Pinball that it would be best not to discuss the court case in public, and I respected that. So basically what happened is, after both parties basically did their thing in court, the judge came with a ruling a couple of weeks later. Or, well, it wasn't a ruling, but basically the judge said, like, why don't you try to come to an agreement by yourselves, just outside court? So Dutch Pinball reached out to ARA, and from what I understood, ARA turned down everything that they had to offer. So they were not interested in manufacturing the games at all. So anybody thinking that, oh, sure, they can work it out and ARA will start manufacturing the games, no, that's not going to happen. There are still some possibilities, but basically, so what Dutch Pinball and ARA reported back, yes, we talked, we couldn't reach an agreement, please make a ruling so that there would be a verdict. And that was, I think, mid-December that they came back to the judge. And typically there's a 6-week period that a judge can take to make a ruling. And with Christmas and the holidays being in between there, it could even end up being 6 to 8 weeks. Which it turned out to be, I guess. And surprisingly, the judge basically told them again to try to find a way to solve this matter by themselves, which might seem odd. Now, I did talk to Barry earlier this week, and I got the feeling that having the court basically sending them back to see if they can work things out tells me they better work something out, because if the court really has to make a ruling, then they're not going to like it. And it's probably that may have to do with a judge not being fully aware of how much costs are being involved, how much time and labor and effort on both sides, basically. And if they're not, if they don't find a way to reach an agreement with ARA in any type of way, they're probably better, or if the court would make a ruling, they were probably going to say, like, you both get nothing, get out of here, and case dismissed. And that's probably the worst case, that because then you spend all this money on court stuff and you still have nothing. And the court might even say, like, okay, you know what, you guys made expenses, ARA made expenses, okay, we're giving the games to ARA and all the inventory goes to Dutch Pinball, and good luck, guys. And that's probably not it's pure speculation at this point. But if the court would say, like, if you can't work it out, okay, this is my ruling, and out of my face.
Right, but from your interpretation so far, it seems like Dutch Pinball have come up with a number of possible solutions, all of which have been turned down by ARA.
Right.
But that's obviously a one-sided discussion, because you only been talking to Barry, you haven't been talking to anybody from ARA.
Right. Maybe I should do that.
Right. Well, if they'll talk, yes. They don't seem very keen on talking. But is there any kind of timeline on when this is going to be sorted out, or when there might be some kind of decision? If they can't come to an agreement, then there's no schedule, no court schedule, no next hearing or anything like that taking place.
Not that I'm aware of. So in this case, I'm not sure whether it's like, okay, you have to reach an agreement within 4 weeks or so, or else the court will rule. I don't think that's the case here. On the other hand, I do think that both ARA and Dutch Pinball both want to draw a line and
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
So
move on from the mess that they're in at the moment, and resolve it one way or the other.
What I expect will happen is that Dutch Pinball will probably reach out to ARA and see if they basically can do a. I'm not sure the right terminology for it, but just okay, sort of like a final offer, take it or leave it. If you leave it and the court will rule, then we're both screwed. If you take it, then at least we both make some money. It's obviously very clear ARA is not going to build any games for Dutch Pinball. That's not going to happen. So they need to find a way. So what are they going to do with the inventory that's currently there? And if they can work out something, then anything is possible. Basically, if Dutch Pinball is able to walk up to ARA and say, here's a bag of money, this is our final offer. Take this, we take everything away, and who knows? You know, if ARA says, yes, okay, that's fine, and then we're done, and have a nice life, who knows?
Yeah, I can't see Dutch Pinball turning up with a bag of money, to be honest, in any circumstances. But let's hope, let's fingers crossed that they can work something out and come to some kind of agreement, because this has dragged on a long time, and there's a huge amount of uncertainty, and it's a mess that needs to be sorted out and resolved one way or the other, so people know where they stand. Either they're going to get something, they're going to get nothing, or there is a serious prospect of more Big Lebowski games being made sometime in the future, which probably needs to happen.
Well, it's a great game, so it should happen. It won't happen at ARA. That's one thing that's certain. Now they just need to see if they can find some sort of deal on how they can basically go their separate ways in such a way that both parties are happy to move on and not look back.
Okay, well, good luck to those two, and let's hope that game comes back into production fairly soon, and all the people who are waiting for their games get them.
Right. So
one way or another.
Other Dutch pinball news.
There's some other news then.
Yeah, we mentioned, I'm not sure whether we mentioned this last month, but Jaap has been undergoing a chemo treatment for his throat cancer, and he has been declared cancer-free. So that was successful. He's still recovering. Yeah. On a sad note, on top of recovering from his chemo, his father died.
Yeah, what a time.
So my condolences.
Absolutely, all our condolences. I'm sure.
To Jaap Nauta of Dutch Pinball, and I don't know the circumstances on what happened, if his father was ill or obviously he wasn't the youngest. But I have no idea. In still, never a good situation to be in. No. So hopefully a quick recovery from Jaap,
and hopefully that's the end of any cancer scare for him.
Right. Yeah, and obviously this is a very sad period in his life, I can imagine. So all the best with that, and hoping for a brighter future.
Absolutely. Talking of bright, let's move on to a new pinball manufacturer who is working on a game.
Right.
This one based in Florida, I believe. Is that right?
Could be. Not completely sure, but I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So we're talking about Suncoast Pinball, and they've revealed their game, their first title, to be called Cosmic Carnival. It's a pretty symmetrical layout, not too complicated.
Right. It reminded me, if I may make a comparison, and I'm not even sure whether I'm accurate here, but when I looked at the whitewood, it sort of got me thinking of Truck Stop.
Okay, I'd have to cast my mind back to that playfield layout, because I haven't seen one of those for a long time. But it did seem a very symmetrical and a very simple layout, really.
Right. Well, okay. So even if it's not something like Truck Stop, I think it would be safe to say that compare it to a Williams or a Bally 1989 game, and you're probably very safe with that.
Yeah, I guess so. In the fact that it's got ramps.
Right.
Other than that, I think the playfield is very sort of electromechanical in its design, with the exception of those ramps. It seems to have quite a lot of unused space, shall we say. Well,
that doesn't mean it has to be a bad thing. I mean, think about Attack from Mars or even Deadpool, or not Deadpool, but Munsters comes to mind. That's still...
I would disagree with that. I would say that looking at Cosmic Carnival, though I don't think there are even any orbit shots to take the ball back up to the top of the playfield. The only way you can get into the upper rollover lanes was from the plunge on the shooter lane that runs all the way up the side of the playfield.
Right.
So there are couple of ramps, a couple of other shots, centre shot, a scoop that's guarded by a drop target. There didn't seem any big toys on the game. It's kind of going back to taking the total nuclear annihilation route back to a simpler, easier to understand, easier to play game.
Right. Although we still don't know, the rules could still be very complex.
That's what I'm saying. All we've seen so far is the playfield layout. We haven't seen much in the way of art. Although speaking of art, it was interesting to see that Suncoast have teamed up with Dirty Donny to do the art on that first game.
Right.
Which is a very, very impressive sign-up, I'd say.
Yeah, a surprising sign-up, I'd say, because obviously Dirty Donny has been doing artwork for Stern for 4 games, I think, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm surprised that Stern either let him go or allowed him to work for another company, because that's usually not something that Stern is likely to do.
Absolutely not, no. But there it is. He's signed up for this game at least. I don't know if there's any longer term deal to produce subsequent games. But Cosmic Carnival was revealed with some artwork on the cabinet and back box, I think. But I'm guessing that's provisional.
Out of the window, let Dirty Donny do his thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they are keeping the name Cosmic Carnival, so there's all sorts of things you can imagine, and then add Dirty Donny's artwork style, which is quite expressive. It's probably a good way to put it. It's pretty out there. That could be interesting. What I'm really curious about, obviously, Dirty Donny also has done these blacklight posters, or these posters with fluorescent paint. It would be interesting to see a pinball game utilizing those type of paints in the artwork.
It's been done before, of course.
It's been done before, but it's been a long time since it's been done.
It has been, yeah. And it hasn't been that successful when it was done before. It was, ones that spring to mind, obviously Viper Night Driving, which had black lights down the side of the playfield. And also, I think, didn't Predator, I think, tried to use UV inks in the playfield, but it didn't really work out. Well, many things didn't really work out with that game.
Big Bang Bar had a UV light fluorescent tube in there as well for when you're playing the wizard mode. But now what I'm talking about here is more like cabinet artwork, like if the game would be in an environment where there would be outside UV black light coming, that the game would really pop up, not as part of so much as a mode in the game that it would light up in UV blacklight colors, but just more that the artwork would pop if using those type of paints.
Well, also, I think these days it would be a lot easier to actually do that if you did choose to use UV paint and UV lights within the game, because you could use UV LEDs,
right,
which weren't things which were available before. You had to have an entire tube to illuminate the playfield. Now you can do a lot more with LED lighting.
Right. But then again, this is all speculation and wishful thinking.
Absolutely.
Because we have no idea what Dirty Donny has in mind for that game, and how if there is any budget for such type of artwork package, so to speak.
Yeah, we don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a sort of standout game from the artwork perspective, even if the playfield is not that exciting at this stage. But
right.
It's a long way to go before it reaches production. But they are expecting to reveal it or show their current state at the Texas Pinball Festival, I think.
Actually, I think they did show the game at the Houston Arcade Expo, which was simultaneously with Pinball Expo last year. So I think they already showed the game, but then it was probably the Whitewood of which we've seen pictures.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll have more to show than that at Texas, and planning to to start producing it towards summer, I suppose, or end of May, start of
End
June.
of May,
like
yeah.
that.
So I'm kind of curious what kind of production they're aiming at. But hopefully we get to talk to these guys at the Texas Pinball Show in March, and we hope to bring you more news on that.
Yeah, we'll try and get an interview with them and see what their plans are for that game and for future titles.
Right, but it will be exciting to see them bringing a new game to the Texas Show, because for all that we know, there might not be that many game reveals as people might be hoping for.
Well, not as many were originally planned, but Suncoast are one company who work on their first title. They're not the only one, of course. There are quite a few other companies out there now working on bringing new games to the market.
Well, let's make that. Thank you for that bridge. Let's move on to Great Lakes Pinball. They are working on a game called Expose. I think it's pronounced.
Mm-hmm, I think you're right.
I don't think I've seen any details of a playfield yet, but they did reveal a character for their upcoming game called Leroy, and that sort of looked like a space type of character, something you would find in space.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's an alien or a human sort of astronaut, cosmonaut type character, but it seemed sort of quite cartoony and short and squat. So maybe give me an indication about the theme of that game. But I should also mention, as far as I'm aware, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this, I've had a few people ask me, Great Lakes Pinball, anything to do with Great Lakes Modular, the Tony Clark company, who used to make replacement boards or circuit boards and designs. And as far as I know, there's nothing to do with them. Is that your understanding as well?
I haven't actually investigated that, to be completely honest. But there are more than one lake or multiple lakes in America. So I'm not sure whether there are more than one area that might be referred to as the Great Lake area. But even if so, if there is only one Great Lake area, there might still be... it might be covering a big area and multiple companies in there with an interest in pinball. So it's...
Yeah, it's just interesting. There's another Great Lakes company, Great Lakes named company producing pinball. But as far as I'm aware, there's no association of Great Lakes Modular, and I don't think Tony is involved in that side of the business anymore.
Or maybe he's doing the board set and leaving the design work to others. That could be. But then again, well, who knows? If we can find out more, perhaps at the Texas Pinball Festival, who knows? Let's see if we can find out.
I kind of gathered from my previous discussions with Tony at shows that he was kind of, getting a little jaded from the pinball scene and was looking for new avenues. He was certainly very much into modular synthesizers. And
can't blame him.
Well, quite, yeah. It's another booming market and something in which he was quite well known. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's where he was concentrating his efforts these days. Okay, so Great Lakes Pinball with their Expose game. So they no timescale on that as to when they're going to reveal anything, as far as I know.
No.
Okay, and the same could be said for Deep Root, of course, who were due to be revealing their games or their first batch of games at the Texas show,
right?
And postponed that for a while. And but we also have some other news from Robert, who's head of Deep Root.
Right, and let me put that in the right context. I emailed Robert Mueller, that is of the initiator of Deep Root Pinball, I think I may call him, and basically I expressed to him that with the Texas Pinball Festival coming up in March, you and I both are flying in a few days ahead, and we were wondering whether we could visit the Deep Root Pinball facility in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And Robert replied, and he said that we could not because there might be too much stuff in plain sight that he doesn't want to get out there, leaked or whatever. He's not allowing other parties like This Week in Pinball either. So it's not that he's prejudiced in the sense of those guys can come but you guys can't. But he had some very happy news to share as well, because apparently he's getting married the week of the Texas Pinball Festival.
Yes, that was interesting. As that was the week when it was meant to be the 5 days of Deep Root,
right?
Wasn't it? And that was only called off in November, December?
Yeah, December-ish. Let's call it December-ish.
Okay.
So now that makes me wonder: did he call off the 5 days of Deep Root because he's getting married?
Mm.
That could be. I mean,
it's not the sort of thing you would choose a date for at the last minute. We're now not doing this. Let's go and get married. It's a strange timing.
Yeah, could also be that his future wife said, I'm far more important than this pinball stuff. I want to get married that week. And if you don't like me or love me, then that's it. But no, let's
not stretch that too far.
Right. Pure speculation. But so Robert did mention that he was getting married the week that we were available to come over. So, as odd as it might seem, congratulations to Robert Mueller of Deep Root for his upcoming wedding.
Absolutely, yeah. Congratulations to him and his future bride.
Yeah. So, do we know it's a bride? I'm not even sure. Is that still politically correct?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yes.
I mean,
that was a huge assumption on my part, and not necessarily one that's got any valid reasoning. So that's a reflection.
Let's just say congratulations to Robert Mueller and his future partner.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Just to be accurate, politically correct, because we don't want to step on anybody's toes.
Quite right. Yeah. Good.
Right.
I'll go along with that. Okay. So that's the Deep Root news from the last month of January. Now, what else have we got going on?
You did quite an investigation on John Trudeau.
Well, I wouldn't say investigation, but I've certainly been following the progress of the court cases in which he has been involved ever since he was arrested. I kind of it's not something I enjoy covering, and it's something but it's something I think needs to be covered somewhere because.
Okay, so you can read all the details on pinballnews.com. Let's move on.
Yeah, no, but there does seem to be a sort of a reluctance to even mention anything about it, and I think people need closure, and we need to know. Otherwise, everybody's just going, well, what happened to John Trudeau? He was designing all these great games, and then all of a sudden he's vanished.
Well, he might still be designing games on the wall of his prison cell, for all that we know.
Exactly. Well, he's probably got about another 14 months or so in which to come up some killer designs. Then, because he probably won't be out of prison until
right. So as much as you don't like covering it, I do have a question about it because there were two separate cases, and he pleaded guilty in both. For the first case, I understood he got 3 years minus the time already served. And the other case, several charges were dropped, but he pleaded guilty on another one. And there was a ruling in that as well. But the sentence didn't go up any further. It was still just the 3 years that he already got, or?
So, yeah, he was, John Trudeau was facing two charges in the first court case. It looks like it was a plea bargain there where he was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment in return for pleading guilty on the stipulation of facts, which means that he doesn't admit to guilt, but accepts the truth of the prosecution's case. Now, normally that's only something which comes into play where there's any chance of a civil case, any damages being claimed against him, which is not going to happen in this case, I don't think, given what the case is about. But anyway, it kind of gives him some kind of out, I suppose, in the future. And then the second case, which took place the hearing took place the very next day, which the details only came out the following week, which he was facing 5 charges, which are varying degrees of severity, from Class 2, which is I don't call any of them minor because I don't think any such a thing exists in that instance. But they were charges from a Class 2 to a Class 1 to a Class X, which is the most serious, which potentially for the most serious cases could carry up to 30 years in prison.
Right.
But he apparently, it would seem, negotiated a plea bargain there and pleaded guilty to one of the more minor charges, the Class 2 ones, for which he also got 3 years imprisonment, and the case, the charges, the other 4 charges, were not prosecuted. They were dropped effectively. He wasn't found not guilty on them, but the prosecution didn't continue on them.
Does it mean there is not enough evidence, or
no? There's
is
no
it
indication
part of the
exactly why or what evidence was available. It's a Latin term which basically means it's not going to be prosecuted the case is not going to be prosecuted any further.
Right.
So that's the end of those cases.
Not being very familiar with the American court system, I'd say that it could also indicate that the charges were false, or that he was falsely accused.
I don't think you can draw that conclusion.
Okay.
From the fact that
pardon my ignorance on that.
There is no inference to be drawn from the fact that they are not prosecuting that case. It could be for a number of reasons, and most likely, I would say, is that it was just part of a deal to get the whole thing wrapped up and dealt with quickly, relatively quickly, and moving on. So it ended up with John Trudeau being sentenced to 3 years in prison, minus time served of around about 250 days, which we'll see if the normal state of affairs in the US legal system prevails, which is that you get for good behaviour you get 50% discount on your jail time. I reckon he'll be out in around about what I reckon about May, I think, of next year.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of the end of that, and
still.
Well, hopefully, yeah. A few people have asked, why are we even talking about John Trudeau? He's not in the pinball business anymore. Well, I think people like to know why he's not in the pinball business anymore, and exactly what happened in that situation, as distasteful as it may be.
Okay, so then moving on. There was some news that Zach Manny of the Straight Down the Middle podcast, I guess we can call him we wouldn't call him a competitor, fellow podcast host, exactly, yes. He bought Flip and Out Pinball. And if I'm not mistaken, Flip and Out Pinball is that company that is making or selling that automatic stairs thing, where you can easily move pinball machines up and down the stairs with this.
Flipping Out Pinball, a staple of many pinball shows in the US. Big resellers of the Escalera lifter.
That's what I mean.
Lifter.
Yes.
Yep, one of those. Yep, and always have 2 or 3 of those devices on demonstration at their shows, and very effective products, and impressive they are as well. To watch them lift a pinball machine up upstairs. I've got a few friends in the US who have them, and it's a bit frightening the first time you strap a pinball to it and just press the button and watch it climb the stairs with your multi-$1,000 piece of precious equipment being lifted upstairs. But it does a very good job of it, and but I think that company was previously run by Larry Kitchen, who spent many years touring pinball shows, and I think more recently became a Stern reseller, I think.
Yeah, that's what I think too. So basically, Zach is now a Stern distributor or reseller or whatever you want to call it.
As well as Escalera, I guess that deal continues as well.
Right.
So good luck to Zach and the flipping out pinball business. Let's hope he can take it from strength to strength.
Right. So actually, I found Larry Kitchen's business card. He was also a distributor for Jersey Jack pinballs. So
okay.
So could be that Zach has become a distributor for both Stern and Jersey Jack now, and as well as the Escalera and other fun stuff. It says on the business card. So and obviously we wish Zach all the best of success with his new company. I'm sure he continues to be doing his podcast hosting as well.
Of course, yes, yeah. Very, very entertaining guy, and good luck to him and the business.
Right. So we're almost at the end.
But a few other items, I think.
Well, the Texas Pinball Festival have been announcing quite a few special guests over the past couple of weeks. I'll give you a quick rundown. From American Pinball, Josh Kugler and Joe Bolser have been announced. Eric Meunier and Jack Guarnieri of Jersey Jack Pinball are coming to the show. Jerry Stellenberg and his team from Multimorphic are again coming to the show. Stern is represented by John Borg, who designed the Munsters game, as well as Jerry Thompson, who did the sounds for that game, Dwight Sullivan, the programmer of that game, and Christopher Frenchy,
the artist for that game.
Yes, exactly, and other games as well. And I understood that there is a VIP Munsters package
Indeed, yeah.
available for only a few spots left, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure there are any of those left now. If there are, then there aren't many left.
Right. I think actually the last number I heard was under 10, so it could have been sold out by now. But anyway, it's fun to mention anyway. So there's a VIP treatment before the show starts, where there's a meet and greet with the Stern design team, as well as Butch, Patrick, and Pat Priest, who were featured on the original TV series.
Yeah.
And the package also includes a one-of-a-kind print from Christopher Frenchy of Munsters artwork, which will be signed by the entire design team and the actors from the TV show as well.
Very nice.
So possibly only a few still available. So if you're interested in that, then visit texaspinball.com and you can find all the details over there. Other VIPs that I recall that have been announced, Barry Osler and Dennis Nordman, both of Deep Root Pinball, and Steve and Mark Ritchie have been announced.
It's going to be a good show.
It's definitely going to be a good show, and it's going to be interesting. There's usually we don't speculate, but Steve Ritchie is sort of like expected Well, he's working on a game, and he might be next in line from Stern. With Munsters being revealed early January, who knows? Maybe at the Texas show. You never know. Then again,
You don't?
Stern is also notorious for releasing a game 2 days after a big show.
Yes. Yeah. And in some circumstances, yeah. Yeah. Although, I mean, it certainly looks like the Texas Pinball Festival, I should say, is going to be heavily promoted or heavily pushing the Munsters as a theme with all the guest stars and the design team there. So it would be strange if they then went ahead and announced a completely different game at that show.
Sure. On the other hand, it's a good way to launch a game. But then again, it's up to Stern Marketing, and I would not be surprised if they would announce if it would be like an April type of game, because Stern is expected to release more games this year than they have done in previous years. At least that's the rumor. Obviously, they have more design teams working now, so that it makes sense that the number of games being released might go up. So then, technically, March, April would seem like a logical period to launch the next game. Keeping in mind that there are more games to follow later in the year, and you want to spread those out evenly, I guess. All speculation, but still...
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if there would not be a game at the TPF show, and who knows, maybe they wait with that game until the Midwest Gaming Classic, which is 3 weeks later, and then
battle it out with Jersey Jacks to when they're going to announce their game.
Right.
So there's that a very narrow window for the first half of the year at big shows or big events. I should also mention there was one other special guest for the Texas Pinball Festival we didn't mention so far.
Yes,
which is John Rhys Davis,
right?
The well-known actor and very very well-known voice in games such as Indiana Jones and Lord of the Rings, for instance.
Right.
So he will be there as well, signing autographs and you no doubt you'll hear him across the other side of the hall. He's not the quietest of speakers. So once he gets going, he will no doubt bring plenty of entertainment to Frisco in March.
Okay, well, I look forward to that. I always enjoyed how his voice work on Indiana Jones is absolutely great, I would say. You know?
I think so. He really makes that game, I think.
Right.
It's not a good game to start with, but yeah, there's some voice call outs in various games which shall we say I want to say lackluster, but maybe not the most exciting. Whereas the exact opposite is true. Anything that John Rhys Davis gets involved in, he really does give it his all.
Right, and it could be interesting having John Rhys Davis doing voice work for Indiana Jones, sort of being reunited with Mark Ritchie, the designer of that game. And in Pinball Magazine number 4, which features the career of Mark Ritchie, he spoke very kind words about working with John Rhys Davis. So I'm sure these two will probably get along and get a drink in a bar, or maybe two, or I don't know, But I can see that they would, from what I understood from Mark when I interviewed him, John Rhys Davis was a pleasure to work with, and I'm pretty sure that Mark will be delighted to see him again.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he definitely fully got into the role of call-outs or announcing call-outs for the game.
Right. And then the two most important special guests at the Texas Pinball Festival show we haven't announced yet, although they have been announced, but we didn't mention them.
Yeah, well, modesty forbids and all that, but yes. So basically, you and I will be there.
Ta-da!
Yes. Yeah, doing our tried and tested and popular. So you think you know pinball quiz, and kicking off the whole seminar sessions. I think we're doing the first slot. I think, aren't we, on Friday evening?
Yes, that's our basically our traditional slot, I would say. We're opening sort of the show, and I think this will be the third time. It will be the fourth time that we're doing this at the Texas Pinball Festival, but it will be the third time that we're doing this during happy hour in the bar. So plenty of people already there, and we're just asking questions and handing out prizes to those who get the most answers right. So
yeah, I mean, how hard can it be? You just turn up, have a free drink, join in the quiz, answer a few questions. We give you some cool stuff. Yeah,
with usually heavily sponsored by many of the pinball companies present at the show, such as Stern Pinball, Jersey Jack Pinball, Spooky Pinball is always very kind to us, American Pinball, and possibly lots of others. We still have to ask if they want to participate, but so far they have always been very collaborative in that effort. So
absolutely,
upfront.
The entire thing couldn't happen without the support of the sponsors from the show and other pinball companies as well, who give us stuff to give away.
Yeah, it's always nice to give away stuff that people give you to give away.
It is. Maybe one day we'll get something. I don't know.
Sometimes I regret giving stuff away because I really would like
Every
to keep
time
it.
I regret giving stuff away.
It's like,
all these cool translights and posters and T-shirts and everything, and I think I'd like that.
Yeah. So, well, maybe we should make a better deal this year. So, we'll see. But that means, obviously, we look forward to seeing you at the Texas Pinball Festival in March. If you haven't booked your tickets to go there, you better hurry. Well, I'm not sure whether they will ever sell out, but trust me, you want to be there. It's the biggest show of the year.
Yeah, and you need to stay either in the hotel or very close to the hotel.
Well, close to the hotel is not a problem because there's plenty of hotels in walking distance.
I don't know how they're filling up at the moment with all the advanced publicity and all the special guests that keep being announced. Maybe the choice or selection and indeed the prices may become a little challenging once all these hotels realise there's such a big event taking place. But I don't think there's any chance much these days of getting into the hotel itself, the Embassy Suites, because I think that sells out. Well, that's sold out basically.
Sometimes people cancel, and who knows? Yeah. Maybe there was a convention nearby, and they decided to cancel that. I don't know. But give it a try. Else, pick one of the other hotels nearby.
Absolutely. As you say, there are plenty of other hotels in the area, and lots of good restaurants and other eateries and shops and stores and bars and everything. Yeah. Anyway, so it'll be a good time in Frisco towards the end of March, and we will both be there, and we will both be reporting as well as presenting our seminar.
Right, and we might even be doing some interviews at the show.
Absolutely,
for our future
podcast.
Yes,
yeah. Probably the end of March. We will come back with some interesting recordings and some exclusive news as well.
So, will you be recording any of the seminars at the show?
I normally don't for that show because normally they do record them, but I will get in touch with Ed and find out what the situation is because it's been a little, how shall I say, unpredictable from year to year because there have been people who've recorded them and said they'll be online straight away, and then a couple of weeks later they aren't online, and I was kind of wishing I had recorded them. So I'll see what the deal is this year. Every year their coverage does get better, but maybe this year I want to find out what the situation is this year, and if they're not going to record it or put it online, then I will. But I'm hoping that that's not a requirement. But I'll still be there in the audience for everyone anyway. So maybe I'll just record them anyway and see what happens.
Right, and there is some other news regarding the organizational team of the Texas Pinball Festival because
Ed
and Kim, who are the main organizers of the show, also opened the Texas Pinball Museum in Midlothian, Texas, which is about an hour's drive from Frisco, I would say. And I'm not sure whether the museum will be open during the show, but if you're heading to Texas, and in case it is, and it's easy to find out because the museum is on Facebook, so you can easily find out whether they are open or not that weekend. If you're not heading to the festival itself, or maybe not on Saturday, then that might be interesting to pay a visit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure exactly how many machines they've got there.
I think like 20-ish. So it's not... if you have to choose, I'd probably go to the Texas Pinball Festival with close to 400 games. But if you're like, I can't make it, but still like to play some pinball, maybe not that weekend, but do check out. I think they're currently only open on Saturdays. I think it's a good cause. It's always fun to see locations like that open up. And if you're in Texas, go on. Visit them and drop a few quarters or whatever the arrangement is. I have no idea.
Well, it's I think it's it's $10, I think, to play all day.
All day?
Very good value. Yeah.
Is there a fine for not playing all day?
$10 for the ability to play all day, shall I say?
Okay.
I'm not sure it's compulsory, but you didn't
play all day.
There's a nice selection of machines there, so get on down there and before the show and after the show, maybe.
Right.
There's a lot
on the other hand, I'm not sure. I haven't checked this with Ed, and maybe I should. And we can get back on this in our next podcast. It could also be that all the games from the museum are being moved to the Texas show, and then moved back once the show is over. So that might be the case. I'm not sure. Could be. But anyway, there is a Texas Pinball Museum, and if you're in the neighborhood, do check it out.
And I'm sure we will be reporting on that during our reportage of the Texas Pinball Festival. So we'll be visiting the museum and seeing what's going on. Well, we're
not visiting Deep Root now, so we got a day to spare, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anybody else wants to invite us to come and visit, just let us know, and we'll certainly try and fit it into our very busy schedule.
Speaking of which, any suggestions? It's okay. We're in the Dallas area, and we're looking for interesting pinball locations or anything pinball that's interesting and worth visiting. So if you have any suggestions, please do drop us an email. Either me or Martin. Our email addresses are on our respected websites, which are pinballnews.com or pinball-magazine.com.
Yeah, so last year I think we went to Cidercade and discovered that place. Then we went to a few other arcades around the area.
And we went to Fun, which was
which was fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And we were there when they were clearing out their warehouse because they had this huge sale at the what do you call it? The flea market on Saturday morning.
Swap meet.
Yeah, exactly. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, on Saturday morning, swap meet. The vans turned up and they were just full of assorted pinball games and cabinets and playfields and boxes.
Seriously, it was almost painful to watch because I would have liked to take a few project games, but since I'm in Europe and the games were over there, that would not make any sense.
Yeah, what can you do? Hopefully some buyers there got some good deals and Fun managed to make some space in their showroom or their storage area in their warehouse, which was absolutely rammed full of machines when we went to visit.
Yeah, so either they filled it up again or they have a bit more space. So
that's always the chance. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're looking forward to visiting other cool pinball-related places this year as well. So if you know anything, do let us know.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Okay, so I think that kind of wraps up the events from January, unless you can think of anything else.
No, I think this is it.
Wonderful.
One last note. We haven't mentioned ColorDMD that much in our podcast lately, but I do want to mention them because they obviously still do great work, and they just announced a new game for which ColorDMD graphics are available, and that's Stern Elvis.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the usual little teaser and guess the name of the game on Facebook, and somebody or other, I can't imagine who it was, actually guessed it correctly fairly early on from the clues given. And I was surprised to see that Elvis wasn't actually one that they'd done before, but it wasn't, and it's now available.
But shouldn't Elvis be in black and white?
I don't think so.
I mean, okay, I'm kidding.
You can always have it in black and white with a ColorDMD anyway, can't you?
Yeah, you can. That's true as well.
It was a monochrome option. So, but yeah, it's nice to see that game getting a bit of love and attention, because it's. I think it's quite a fun game and quite underrated.
Yeah, and speaking of ColorDMD, I'd like to make a plug for their color LED displays, I think they're called. With they do have the LCD screens, of which the intensity of the artwork is not the same as you have on a dot matrix display. But now with these color LED displays, or whatever they are called, man, those images look good.
Well, it's certainly very bright, that's for sure. And I think LED is definitely the way that they will be going in for future products, because I think the supply of the LCD panels that they were using is kind of coming to an end. They were kind of laptop panels, I think. So moving to custom-made LED displays is very good. Very intense colours, as you said, very vivid, very bright. Maybe too bright in some cases, maybe too. Well, some people have said that they find them a little wearing on the eyes, because unlike the LCD panels, these are emissive displays, so they actually produce light rather than block light, which is what the LCD does. But the actual point where the light is generated can be quite small in comparison to an LCD dot. So but. In the right circumstances, and if it's in a very dark room, you probably want to turn it down a bit. But it's in daylight, nothing beats having an LED display, because those images really do pop on the display.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And it was last year, I think, at the Texas Pinball Festival, if I'm not mistaken, that they introduced the larger LED display for games like Baywatch and Maverick and that kind of stuff. I was very impressed with the images, how cool the images of Baywatch looked on that big LED display.
Well, yes, I mean, it was the year before they actually introduced LEDs in the first place with Circus Voltaire, which is always a problematic display because it's on the playfield, and having one of the larger LCD panels, it wouldn't fit on the playfield for Circus Voltaire, so producing a custom size LED was ideal.
Right.
So that looked wonderful, and of course, Circus Voltaire is just full of colour, that game. But moving onto your point, yes, well, it's great to see that now you can get replacement displays for those 192 by 64 high resolution and large displays for those Sega games like Frankenstein and Baywatch, and Maverick and so on.
Which were much needed, I have to say as well, because I sadly recall selling a Baywatch game for way too cheap, because the display was still kind of okay on that game, but the rest of the game was very creatively handled by a Italian technician, which is never a good thing. But seeing that color display really made me regret selling that game.
Yep. So there you go, a new lease of life for games which might have otherwise not been viable to restore, or economically viable to restore.
Right.
So good news there.
Right. So, I guess that we're at the end of this podcast. Thank you all for listening, tuning in, and we'd be back by the end of next month, early
March, I guess it's going to be.
Yeah.
The end of February, March. We're looking
Right.
back on the 28 days of February in the wonderful world of pinball.
Right. So thank you for listening, and bye for now.
Yes, goodbye. See you next time.